Are we on the air?
Yes, you are.
In the 90s, we had that word, keep it real. Obviously, I mean, it's been milked. It's been reached a point where it's just whatever.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in this era of hip hop that there is such a thing as keep it real, or crossing the line between commercialization and success and, you know, the standard of what is hip hop? Is there a line anymore?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I think it's different. It certainly isn't the same thing. It's different in the sense that back then you had more of the bar was higher, first of all, creatively.
Right.
A lot of these cats who are doing it now, who are really popping, who people are like, yo, that's some real hip hop, or yo, they really da-da-da-da-da. I hate to sound old or anything like that, but then, the bar was so high, they probably wouldn't have been able to get down, really. That's just real talk.
Yeah.
Like, when I really think about it, it's like, wow, like, these cats probably wouldn't have been able to really do it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you gotta remember, there was NWA, Tribe, Public Enemy, Brand Nubian, Gangstar, De La Soul. We all put out albums in 1991. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Competition was thick.
crazy. And LL was just about to put out, like Mama said. Like, it was insane. The level of creativity that was going on.
Yeah.
And you had to. I think the one thing about all those aforementioned was that they had the ability to have that balance somehow. You know what I mean? Whereas today, being that the standards are so much lower and the bar is much lower, and there's some pluses and minuses in that, in a way, because it doesn't make it like so exclusive. Whereas sometimes with our music, I know I wish it could be a little bit more exclusive, because we don't want to hear like certain, like, eat some bubble gum, lappy yum bum, all that all day long.
Yeah,
yeah. But it's definitely not a bar that exists like it did then. So because of that, the balance between commercial and authenticity is blurred.
You touched on that idea of not wanting to hear the Laffy Taffy or the bubble gum, or even maybe the my lipstick is popping.
Lip gloss, actually.
I'm glad that I don't really know it that well. But
you know what? I kind of like Lil Mama.
Yeah, but
it's weird.
Got some flavor, right?
But I do think she's sweet. But I mean, like, I think it's more the idea of the demographic of hip hop is growing. I mean, hip hop is like 30 plus years old, and there's younger kids that want to hear this, older kids. Do you think that the industry is addressing the growth of hip hop?
No, they're not. And that's the problem. The same way that you can get budgets and marketing money doled out for a 50 Cent or a Jay-Z, you'll need that for a Talib Kweli or a new, like, Pete Rock record or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like, the same way that you have alternative rock, that you have heavy metal rock, and you have, like, emo rock, you know what I'm saying? You have different sectors, or you have different spaces of rock. The same for hip hop.
Yeah.
We should have, like, a more like the hardcore hip hop. Then you have the battle hip hop, the battle rap. I can't curse. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It's okay. Classic hip hop.
You should, the same way that rock has all of these different genres within the genre, is the same way that hip hop should be treated. I think we're elders enough in the form that it should be allotted.
Totally agree. Let's keep it moving and talk about a dude that, man, like, in terms of the importance that he was to hip hop and still is, and him, like, starting off with you guys. How did you meet the late Jay Dilla?
I met Dilla when I was on tour. I did Lollapalooza. It must have been about 94, and I met him. This cat who was playing with Funkadelic named Ant Fiddler bought him. He was telling me about him. He was like, yo, I want you to meet this cat. He looks up to you so much. Like, he just idolizes you, and he does beats, and his stuff is hard and it's crazy. I want you to hear him. So he bought him, and I met him. I remember the day I met him, he was on the bus with his glasses, and he just was smiling. He couldn't even talk. But it was cool, and I heard his stuff, and I was like, damn, it's crazy. Like, it was slum. It was some early slum stuff. I remember the beats was just so crazy. And then I hooked up with him, and I remember playing it. I listened to it first, and we had an after show off of that tour, because it was a pretty large tour. We had a show later that day with De La Soul. And I remember pulling Dave in, and I was like, from Plug 2, from De La. I was like, listen to this. He was like, whoa. And I was like, this crazy, right? I was like, I gotta do something with this kid. So I called him, and then I kind of was managing him at first, and then I introduced him. You know, I obviously introduced him to everybody else, and then I played him. Common came to my house one time, and he met Common at my house, and then I went to the studio to see D'Angelo, and Amir was in there, and I played it for them, and then Amir, you know, jumped all over it and whatever, and you know, I just introduced them to everybody and just started putting them on the cats. You know what I'm saying?
How did the dynamic of Tribe change once Dilla?
Well, I wanted to get him off. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to manage him. I was playing him. I played him for Busta. Busta took some tracks from him. You know, after I did that Mobb Deep Infamous album, the plan was for me and Dilla to do their next joint, and I was trying to really talk to them about it, but then, you know, they didn't really want to listen. So I was just like, yo, let me just start a little production thing, and I'll call it the Uma. And, you know, eventually I'll birth JD out of it, because I felt that when I was just saying his name, people was like, JD? Like, people were hating. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of the people with the paper, at least, you know what I'm saying? They was hating. So I was like, if we form this thing called the Uma, and we do some stuff and it becomes the Uma, then eventually he'll be attached to a brand, and people won't just, you know, and I can birth him out of that. Yeah. So we did the Uma, and then he did some stuff for De La. I brought him in on the last 2 Tribe albums, and that's how we worked.
It's beautiful, man. Totally beautiful, man. For a lot of people, the Tribe and the Slum connection kind of symbolizes the passing of the torch in probably the most beautiful and realest way that I've seen in the history of hip hop. Hold Tight. Off of Fantastic Volume 2. And it seemed to put a stamp on that entire sentiment of passing that torch. What were you going through when that song was made and when you wrote that verse?
I don't know. You know, I would I'm a person who, you know, we're in show business, and we're in the star business and all that, and it's all good, you know. But I totally believe in community. And I believe in mentorship, and I believe in learning and teaching, you know what I'm saying? So at that point, I was just like, you know, let these next cats get up and get on and do it, and we can still do whatever. I may not do it or whatever, but here's some voices that need to be heard too, you know what I mean? That are just as important. I felt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where my head was at, you know, and a lot of the Puff stuff was jumping off, and you know what I'm saying? So, and his stuff was more, you know what I'm saying, like mainstream, and that's when everybody was on the player stuff and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? So it was just a crossroads, if you would, you know what I mean?